Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the new Peugeot 208. Okay, it's not really all that new. This is just a facelift of the second generation Peugeot 208, which has been with us since 2020. Me and the Peugeot 208, we go way back. This is my third time driving a 208 in my lifetime. It's the first time I've driven the new one, but it's the third time I've driven a 208 in general because the Peugeot 208 is the car that I learned to drive on. That was a first generation 2015 208 with a diesel engine. That was the car I learned to drive on. And then there's the silver 208 that's currently in Switzerland, Patrick as I call it, that we bought for flipping. I showed you that at the end of the Auto Basel video. None of you saw that, but never mind. And now we have this, the facelift second generation Peugeot 208, which was introduced earlier this year and recently arrived in Macedonia. The Peugeot 208 has been Peugeot's B segment hatchback in Europe since 2012. That's when the first generation arrived and it replaced the 207, which was a little bit bigger. The 208 is smaller than the 207, but it does have more interior room, and the latest one has more efficient powertrains and an updated design that fits in with the rest of Peugeot's lineup as of recently. Although it's based on a slightly older platform, it still feels quite new. So let's go ahead and start with the styling. As you can see, this 208 is exceedingly yellow. This color is called Agueda Yellow, and it's a no-cost option on the 208. And this one is actually a base model. It's the active trim level, and it has nothing in the way of options. This is as base model as it gets for fleet sales, if you will. But the color, once again called Agueda Yellow, is fantastic. I am all for colorful cars, brand new cars, because everything is all white and silver and gray and black. I am all for colors like this. It definitely wakes up the design of the car and it makes it look a whole lot cooler and more trendy. Now, of course, I'm aware, we have a photo bomb here. Now, I'm fully aware that nobody's gonna buy the 208 in this color. Whoever does, kudos, but I like that this one is yellow, and it definitely wakes up that all-new facelifted design. So enough about me raving about the color. Let's have a look at what's new in terms of the design. Let's go ahead and start with the front end, which has been significantly updated compared to the previous one. First of all, you might be able to see the single lion's tooth daytime running lights that were there before have now been replaced with a triple lion's tooth daytime running light, which is now the case with basically every Peugeot model in the lineup. There's also a brand new grille design with these lines kind of exploding away from each other, and the new Peugeot logo front and center. The whole front bumper actually has a completely different shape, and so does the grille. And on the hood, god damn it, you can also see on the hood there the 208 badge, which now has a different font. And that's about it for the updates on the front end. No point in showing you the side profile because that's exactly the same. The main difference with the 208 facelift compared to the previous one, as far as the side profile is concerned, are the wheels. Now, this one has hubcaps because it's on steel wheels, but one of the main things that Peugeot's really pushing right now is alloy wheels with no spokes, just random geometric designs. And that's exactly what we have here. Even in the more expensive versions of the 208 with alloy wheels, they look very similar to this. And I'm a huge fan of that. It's a very brave and bold move, and it shows that wheels don't really have to have spokes. They can just be geometric designs all over the place, and that's cool. The rear end does have some more notable changes. You might notice that the Peugeot script written across the back is now in a different font, and again, every new Peugeot model is using this script as well, including the 3008 and the commercial vehicles as well. And on the commercial vehicles, it's massive. It says Peugeot on the back, and I find that really amusing. And it's completely unrelated to this car, but who gives a shit? And as you might be able to tell, the rear lights now have horizontal LED slats in them. The pre-facelift had vertical slats, this one has horizontal ones, and below that are your filament turn signals and reverse lights, which are LED items in the more upscale versions of the car. Kind of a missed opportunity to put a light bar here because that whole trim piece down the center of the tailgate is painted black, but maybe we'll see that in the next generation. And down there you can see teeny tiny exhaust pipe and the rear fog light. So what do I think of the design of the Peugeot 208? Oh, it locked automatically, thanks. I think it looks great. I'm a huge fan of small cars. I've always liked this, the new generation of Peugeot 208. Actually, I like all of them, frankly. I've always loved the second generation 208 in terms of design, and I think that the facelift refreshes it and makes it look really rather cool, especially in this color. Now, admittedly, the more upscale versions of the car look a little bit better because they're a bit more embellished on the outside, but it's still a cool car, and it absolutely will turn heads if you specify this color. Buy more colorful cars, damn it! Sorry. Anyway, let's move it along now to practicality. First of all, the key, which, as you can see, thank you. The key is a key. It's not a key fob because this one doesn't have keyless entry, and it has 3 buttons: unlock, lights on, and lock. It doesn't have a trunk release. This is actually the same key fob that, well, even the first generation 208 also used. The only major difference is the new logo on the back. Anyway, when you unlock the doors, the lights do a little flashing dance. They don't have any animations or anything. They just flash randomly a few times and they stay on for a little while to say hi. And now we have to walk over and open the cargo area because there's no automatic release. If you're expecting an automatic release, you're crazy. But anyway, stick your hand in here, push that, and boom, cargo area. This is the cargo area. It's full of my equipment right now because that's how we do things around here. The cargo area offers you 309 liters of space, which is perfectly respectable for this class of vehicle. There's not a lot in the way of additional items though. There's this hook for your grocery bags, and well, let's find out if there's a false floor. Well, this is where the spare wheel's supposed to go, I suppose, but the floor is not adjustable. It's just one level. And here's the parcel shelf held in by strings like you'd expect. And over there are the handles to fold down the rear seats. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to fold them down for you. Here's what the cargo area looks like with the rear seats folded down. When you do fold them down, it offers up this much space. And this is all great, except there's a massive step from the cargo area transitioning into the rear. So it might get a little awkward if you want to carry bigger items, but it is completely doable. What about space in the back seats? Let's find out. These doors are really small. They don't open very wide, but let's go ahead and try to nestle ourselves in here. Here we are in the back seats. Front seat is in my driving position, as you might know, 5'11.5", Discord admin in width. Well, for a small car, it's about what you'd expect. It's not particularly spacious in here, and these rear seats are really low, so I feel like my knees are up to my face, but for a small car, this is about what you'd expect. And if I adjust myself just a little bit, knee room is not the biggest, but for this class of vehicle, it's actually pretty good. And headroom is fine. It's not the best, but for a short journey, really, this is not a family car, so you're not going to use it as such. But for short journeys, if you need to carry a few people in the back, and by that I mean 2, because I don't know about this middle seat, it'll be perfectly fine. And also, there's nothing back here at all. There's this storage area. It's not really a cup holder. I don't know what you can fit in there. There's no, well, actually, my apologies. There are pockets in the front seats, which always makes me happy. Tiny little, can you all stop? Tiny little storage area in the door. And well, that's it really. You just have a back seat that you can sit in, and hopefully you'll be comfortable. If you're taller than me, I don't think so. But if you're shorter, I don't think you'll have a problem. Finally, let's check out the front. No keyless entry in this one, so you just kind of open the door and carry on with your life. The interior is, well, basically the same as it was before. The 2 major differences are the new Peugeot badge on the steering wheel, and the infotainment screen is now 10 inches in diameter as standard. Previously it was 7, it's now 10. This particular one has these cloth seats with this little green stitching that matches the exterior of the car. Even though the exterior is yellow, this shade of green actually does work, so you can see it yourself with this exterior color. You also have these little green stripes along the side, again matching the exterior, and fake carbon fiber. We'll discuss that later. And now we're inside the 208. So you can see the gauge cluster because the steering wheel's in the way from this angle. So this one doesn't have keyless start, so I'm not going to bother with bothering you on how to start it. Super simple. First item that greets you in the interior is this tiny little two-spoke steering wheel. This steering wheel has been used by about 50 other Peugeot models before, and I've shown it to you before. It's very squashed, and the leather on it is pretty solid. It's not the softest, but it's not uncomfortable. It's actually pretty nice. You have some piano black trim around here, and some silver work there, your new Peugeot badge here. And in the middle you have the horn, which, not surprisingly at all, sounds like this. This particular 208 has a 5-speed manual transmission, which is controlled through this shift lever that's directly out of the previous generation car. I'm serious, the 208 that's in Basel right now has this exact same shifter. The shifter action is pretty precise, way better than it was on the first gen actually, from what I can remember. It's nice, the good kind of notchy, as I say. You have a little bit of piano black trim on either side, you know, where you hold the shifter. It's always clever. Thanks, Peugeot. And that's really about it. For reverse, you just push here and down, brings up your rear parking sensors, and that's really all there is to it. Also available on this car are a 6-speed manual transmission, an 8-speed automatic, and a 6-speed dual clutch automatic in the hybrid. But this one has the 5-speed. You'll see why later. And over here, a manual parking brake, just the way God intended. So this is your 10-inch infotainment screen. Again, it comes standard as 10 inches. This is the base model, and it has a big screen, which is always nice. However, this is more of a multimedia center, as I like to say. And really, I'm not going to bore you to death. I've covered this a million times before. I'll just go through it really quickly so we don't waste time. We can talk about the other stuff. So that's your media. That's your phone to see what device you have connected to the car, or to engage Apple CarPlay, or, you know, make a phone call. Here's your climate controls. They're on the screen, but there's only like a few options here, and most of them, or rather some of them, are on these piano keys, which we'll come back to. This is your app drawer, which has only these options, and your different car settings for the safety systems and some miscellaneous vehicle settings that you see here. And that's it. That's all you have with the infotainment system. For those who are wondering, yes, it does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but it doesn't take up the whole screen like the Opel Corsa, which is based on this car. The Apple CarPlay takes up like a third of the screen right in the middle, but it does work most of the time, except for the time when it decided to drop the connection as I was taking a phone call. So I've just accepted my fate that Apple CarPlay will never work properly on Stellantis vehicles, or, well, specifically the PSA group, anything that's on this platform. Here you have 2 climate control vents. There's also 2 on either side. There's one there and one over here. Down here you have a bunch of shortcut buttons. These on the top, so the house, the climate, the car, and these 2 dots are touch sensitive. They're capacitive, and they provide no feedback. That's your car settings, obviously. That's your home. That's your climate controls. But these here are the piano keys, and they actually work. If you remember, my first ever press car review was on a Peugeot 2008. That had the same sort of setup here. Actually, most of the interior is the same. This is your volume control and on and off for the audio system. That's recirculating air for the AC. That's AC off. That's AC max. Hazard lights. Power locks. Max front defrost. I know it doesn't say max, but it is max front defrost. And rear defrost. And they have these little lights that tell you if they're on or not. Over here you have a USB-C port in case you prefer to use USB-C for Apple CarPlay or what have you. You have these 2 trays, I believe, on the higher trim levels. This is a wireless charging pad for your phone. This one doesn't have that. And there's another shelf here. It's not removable, but you can put some random item there. Shifter, parking brake, a porcelain cup, which conveniently is a perfect demonstration for the cup holder. That's not why that's there, but it does serve as a good demonstration. And a little 12-volt outlet. And as far as your interior is concerned, this part anyway, that's it. So let's move it along to the gauge cluster. The gauge cluster in this one is analog. The higher end trim levels have a digital cluster here. I believe they still use the 3D system that was in the 2008 I reviewed, but this one is analog, and it appears to be lifted wholesale from the previous generation 308, and it has a tachometer that goes counterclockwise like an Aston Martin, which is always nice. Over on the left side you have your temperatures, and on the right side you have your fuel gauge, and in the middle you have a tiny little color screen that can show your lane keep assist, your digital speed readout, your trip odometers, the speed limit, which is also up there, so I don't know why that's there. And that's about it. That screen is controlled through this little wheel on the left spoke of the steering wheel. If you want to see your trip data temporarily, you press the button at the end of the wiper stalk, just like on my Citroen C6, and you can also use that to reset the trip odometers. On the left side of the steering wheel, or the steering column rather, we have this turn signal stalk that's straight out of every Citroen and Peugeot model since at least 2005. This one has automatic lights, which is nice. There's also a button at the end. I have no idea what this button does. I've been pushing it randomly. It doesn't do anything, but the rest is all standard stuff. You have your rear fog lights there, and obviously your turn signals. Down here is cruise control. And over on this side, you have the wiper stalk, which again is straight off of basically every Peugeot model from at least 2005. And one last thing to mention, you have a headlight leveling switch there. And this time, for real, that's it for the interior. So let's move on to quality and practicality. So the quality of the interior is, well, it's good, but it's not plush. Basically everything you see and touch and feel is hard plastic. And I would normally give the car flack for having hard plastics everywhere, but this car costs 17,000 euros and it's a B-segment hatchback. I can't really be too hard on it for that. And more importantly, the assembly quality, the fit and finish, is all solid and well put together, as you might expect. Interior quality is not plush, but it's good, it's solid. As for the fake carbon fiber all over the place, well, I'll put simply, it's not that it looks bad, it's just that this is not the right car to have such trimmings. I wish there was a way to get something different instead of carbon fiber, but I digress. What about storage? Well, this door pocket can very obviously and very easily fit a large bottle. You have some extra storage behind that. No storage area here, sadly. You have your two trays here, one smaller one, one larger one. You have a glove box, which is really big, two cup holders here in the middle, and this little storage area, which I'm not really sure what that's useful for, but you do have that. You also might have noticed the total lack of a center console. It's a little bit annoying, but this car is, again, a base model B-segment hatchback, and usually in that segment, those things are optional, so I'm not going to be too harsh on it for that. So overall, the interior of the 208 is a pretty decent place to be, all things considered. On your interior dome lightings here for your doors and for your individual reading lights. Disappointingly, they're not LEDs, they're filament bulbs. Odd, considering the car has automatic LED headlights, but whatever. And in the middle here, well, in the middle, here you have your sun visor, although it doesn't include any illumination, disappointingly. And that's your interior of the Peugeot 208. You know what else is the same as the previous generation of Peugeot Super Minis? The door closing sound. Love that. As far as the powertrain is concerned, there are two things you need to know. One, this 208 actually has the 1.6 liter THP four-cylinder that was in the early 2008s from this generation, and the 208 GTI and the Mini Cooper. And secondly, well, I never said I was good at lying, right? Nope. It's the 1.2 liter PureTech again. That makes it the fourth time this year that I've driven a car with the 1.2 liter PureTech engine. So thank you, Mr. Tavares. You can probably see why he left now. Anyway, this is a 1.2 liter three-cylinder engine, also known as the PureTech. What makes this one different, yes, it is actually different than the others, I promise. The thing that makes this one different is that it's naturally aspirated. It doesn't have a turbo, and as a result, it makes a thumping 75 horsepower and 118 newton meters of torque. Woo! Peugeot claims that this car will do 0 to 60 kilometers an hour in around 13 seconds, and the top speed is somewhere just a little over 160 kilometers an hour or 100 miles an hour. This one is front-wheel drive, actually all of them are front-wheel drive, and it sends power to the wheels through the 5-speed manual transmission that you saw a little bit ago. Also available on the 208 are the turbo versions of this engine with 100 or 130 horsepower. They get a 6-speed manual or an 8-speed automatic. There's the new hybrid with either 100 or 136 horsepower. That gets a 6-speed dual clutch automatic. And finally, there's the 208 electric, which has a 156 horsepower electric motor here at the front and a WLTP range of about 400 kilometers. So how does this engine behave? Well, let's find out. Let's take the 208 out for a drive.
Obviously, we start with the 208's home turf, which is the city. First thing I want to tell you about is the steering. The 208 has speed-sensitive power steering, which noticeably weighs up when you go past 40 kilometers an hour. So below 40 kilometers an hour, it's impossibly light and very easy to maneuver and to park and to steer in general. And then as you exceed 40 kilometers an hour, it noticeably weighs up and you can actually feel it getting heavier in your hand. Anyway, as far as the town driving is concerned, not much to say really. The 208 is brilliant at it. It's very quiet, it's comfy, it's very easy to maneuver into tight spaces and easy to park, obviously, made easier by the fact that this one has rear parking sensors. They are standard, and it's a very pleasant experience in the city. The shifter is pretty satisfying. I much more prefer the throw of this transmission than the ones I've used before on the 208. They were a little bit odd, although that could be due to a variety of different factors, but I like the shifter action. The throws are still long, make no mistake, but it's pretty satisfying to use. As for fuel economy, well, on average, in both the city and on the highway, you can expect roughly 6 to 7 liters per 100 kilometers of driving, which converts to this many mpgs. So, what about the highway? Well, in theory, this would be a place where the 208 falls on its face, because it only has 75 horsepower. But actually, it was much better than I expected. First of all, being a not SUV, I know that was grammatically incorrect, but please forgive me. The fact that it's not an SUV means that it's much more aerodynamic, and the tires are very quiet. There's hardly any road noise, and there's hardly any wind noise either, which is really impressive because this is a cheap car, and cheap cars tend to not have that much sound insulation. But the 208 was pretty fantastic, and it also has pretty significantly long gears and a long final drive. So relative to what it is and how much power you have at 120 kilometers an hour, the engine ticks over at 3100 RPM, just like my VW Up. So that's perfectly fine and perfectly acceptable, but more importantly than that is that it doesn't feel strained or like it's really taking every last drop of power from the engine just to drive on the highway. And as for back roads and stuff, it's not particularly fun. I wouldn't call it fun, so to say. It's more geared towards comfort, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I also enjoyed the fact that this is more back to basics. So if you do decide to take a back road, make no mistake, it's at no means bad on a back road. It's fine. But the important thing is there's no drive modes and there's no automatic or manual mode for the transmission. You're on your own. You have a 5-speed manual, you have a clutch pedal and a brake pedal and a gas pedal, and that's what you get for back road driving. On a back road it's fine, but I think that it would be a little bit more fun if it had a tiny bit more horsepower. But overall, regardless of where you are, the Peugeot 208 is a very pleasant experience behind the wheel. And that's the new Peugeot 208, ladies and gentlemen. For years and years, the Peugeot 208 has been at the top of its game. Not only is the 208 a bestseller in the B segment in Europe, it's actually been in first place more than once. And after spending some time with the facelift 208, I can say that it's still got it. The Peugeot 208 gets a score of 8.5 out of 10. Thank you everyone for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Also check on the community tab regularly for upcoming videos, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.